Okay, let's get started. We are in the Mishnah on Daf Samech Zayin Amid Aleph. Hamochiris hachotzer mochar batim boro shichun umaros. The Rashbam in the previous Mishnah has a very interesting commentary. We had said when it comes to selling a house, there are certain appliances that are included, but only if they're affixed to the ground. Anything that's movable is not included. That's not the rule for all types of real estate sales. The Rashbam tells us the general rule is the larger the piece of real estate, the more stuff that could potentially be included in the sale. Because the larger the deal, the more that is generally assumed to be included. So just keep that in mind as we see various different examples. A chutzner is larger than a house, so there are going to be more things that are included in the sale. If a person sells a chutzner, it's assumed that he's also selling any structures and caves and caverns and wells that are on that chutzner. Avalo es hametaltalin, but anything that's movable is not included in the sale. But bisman shomer lohu v'chol masha b'socha rekulin mechurin. But if he says explicitly, I hereby sell you the chutzner and everything that's contained therein, so then all of the movable items are also included in the sale. And here the Rashbam also points out, but it's only those things that are accoutrements of the chutzner. Something that's not servicing the chutzner, even if you say everything that's in it is not included. So if my kid has a basketball that he left out in the chutzner, that would not be included in the sale. That's not there to service the chutzner, so to speak. But anything else, like a swing set, would be included in the sale, presumably. Okay. So bein kach uvein kach lo machar lo es hamerchatz v'lo es beis habad shebesocha. But even with that additional verbiage in the contract, what's not included in the sale is if there's a structure that is an olive press or that is a bathhouse. And the reason is that these are considered to be important, distinct structures on their own, and therefore it would have to be stated explicitly that that's included in the sale, even if, no matter what other verbiage he's using. That's not considered to be part of the chutzner, even if those structures are resting in the chutzner. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, hamocher es hachutzner lo mocher ela avira shel chutzner. Rabbi Eliezer fundamentally disagrees with the Chachamim that when you sell a chutzner, no structures are included. You're only selling what he calls the air, which means just the land, the empty lot. Anything that has structure on it is not included in the sale. The Gemara now says, Tanu Rabbana, hamocher es hachutzner mocher batim hachitzonim ubatim hapnimim ubeis hachulsaos. If you sell a chutzner, what's included? All of the homes all of the residential properties on the chutzner, including those that don't open directly into the chutzner. In other words, let's say you have townhouses where one townhouse opens up into the chutzner, and there's a townhouse behind it that doesn't even have its own separate entrance into the chutzner. But if it's resting on that property, it's included in the sale nonetheless. What's also included in the sale, says the Brisa, is a sand lot. Now, what did people use sand lots for? They didn't just use it for playing, for the children's playground. They used it actually for industrial purposes of manufacturing glass. That's not considered to be a separate property like a bathhouse or an olive press, and therefore it's included in the sale just like a well or a cistern. Okay. Now, what else is included? So, chanuyos psuchos l'socha nimkaros ima v'shein psuchos l'socha ein nimkaros ima. Now, what if you have a retail operation? You have a store. It's resting on the chutzner. So, is it included in the sale or not? So, the Brisa says it depends. If the entrance to the store is from the chutzner, so then it's included in the sale. If the entrance, if the store, however, is on the chutzner property, but the entrance to the store is from a reshus harabim that abuts the chutzner, so then that's not included in the sale. Now, psuchos lekan ulekan nimkaros ima. What happens if it has both a front entrance and a back entrance, such that you can access it both from the chutzner and from the reshus harabim? That's also included in the sale. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Hamocher es HaChatzer Lo Mocher Ela Milusa Shel Chatzer. And Rabbi Eliezer says the same thing here as he said in the Mishnah, that when you sell a Chatzer, no structures are included, only the airspace of the Chatzer, meaning the empty lot, is included, no structures are included. So Amar Mar Psuchos Lakanu Lakanim Karos Ima. So let's go back to that line in the Brisa which had said that if it has two entrances, one to the Chatzer and one Rishus Harabim, it's included in the sale. So Vahatani Reb Chia Einim Karosima, but 1 second, Rabbi Chia had taught that that's not included in the sale in his Brisa. So how do you reconcile it? Lo kasha hadarov tashmisha sayhu legav, hadarov tashmisha sayhu lebar. The answer is that it depends where the main entrance of the store is. Like remember I had mentioned there's a front entrance and a back entrance. If the front entrance is to the Chatzer and the back entrance is to the Rishus Harabim, it's included in the sale. But if the front entrance is to the Rishus Harabim and it's only the back entrance that's from the Chatzer, so therefore the majority of the customers coming from Rishus Harabim, then that's not included in the sale. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Hamocher es HaChatzer Lo Mochar Ela Avira Shel Chatzer. Rabbi Eliezer fundamentally disagrees, and he holds that you're only selling the empty land, not the structures. Amar Rava Ida Amar Le Dirasa Dukuli Alma Lo Pligi Debati Mashma. So Rava tells us a big chiddush. He says, if the stipulation was, I'm selling you this dirasa, this residential property, so then everyone, including Rabbi Eliezer, would agree that the houses on the Chatzer are included in the sale, because after all, he used the word residence in the terms of the sale. Ki pligi da'amar le darasa. The machlokus is, what if you use the word darta or darasa? That's an unusual word, but the Rashbam says that's the Aramaic translation of the word chatzer. Mar savar tarbitza mashma, umar savar bate mashma. So this is the machlokas. Rabbi Eliezer holds that the word darata or darta does not mean residence; it means recreation, right? And therefore, or open expanse, and therefore it's not including the residential properties, the structures. And the Chachamim say that the word darta is no different from dirata. They both mean residential property, and therefore the houses are included. Now, according to this version, the Rashbam points out to us, according to this version, we're going to see a second version of Rava's statement, but according to this version, you have to totally reread the Mishnah and say that the terms of sale did not at all include the word chatzer. The terms of sale in our Mishnah where they use the word darta, and that's the machlokas between the Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer. I'm selling you a darta. They agree on the terms of sale. They stipulate a price, and they say the darta is now sold. So now the question is, what does the word darta mean? The Chachamim say it means houses also, and Rabbi Eliezer says it means only the empty space and not the structures. But then we have an Ika Da'amri. And that, by the way, that's difficult to say because that's not what the Mishnah never uses the word darta, so it's a little bit difficult to read that in the Mishnah. But in the second version, it's a little bit easier to read. The second version of Rav is Amar Rava, Ida Amar Le Darta to Kuli Amalo Pligi Debate Mashma, Ki Pligi Amar Le Chatzer, Marsaver Chatzer Avira Mashma, Marsaver Chatzer Amishka. The second version is where this terms of sale included the word chatzer, which is what our Mishnah says. And therefore, when the word darta is used, everyone agrees that houses are included because the word darta implies residence. But when the word chatzer is used, that's where you have a machlokas. Rabbi Eliezer says the word chatzer means literally a courtyard, and therefore it doesn't include any structures. And the Chachamim say no, the word courtyard does include structures. And how do they know that? Because when you read the parshios that we just read about the construction of the Mishkan, there's something called the Chatzar HaMishkan. And the Chatzar HaMishkan's dimensions, the 50 by 100 of the dimensions of the Chatzar HaMishkan, include structures that are on that property. That's included in the 50 by 100 dimensions. So you see that sometimes a Chatzar can be inclusive of structures that are on the Chatzar included in those measurements. And that's how we know that the word Chatzar can be inclusive of structures as well. Another thing that Rav has said, but this time in the name of Rav Nachman, I'm Rav Nachman, and here we're not talking about a Chatzar anymore. We're talking about Reuven is selling to Shimon two adjacent properties. One is a sandlot that is adjacent to a river bed. Now, both of these are ostensibly used for industrial purposes. The sandlot is used to heat up the sand and convert it to glass. I'm selling you this body of water, the riverbed, so that you can, those old gold rush movies, you're panning for gold, right? Or panning for other kinds of metal that are found in the riverbed. So this person who's buying these two properties is some kind of industrialist. He wants to create glass and metal, and so he's buying these two properties. So let's say the terms of sale were in a shtar that the sale is only final when you make an actual kinyan of chazaka on the property. By making a kinyan of chazaka on the sandlot, you have only acquired the sandlot and not the riverbed. And by making a chazaka on the riverbed, you only acquire the riverbed and you have not acquired the sandlot. That's what Rav Nachman says. So the Gemara says, Eini, is this really so? Why should that be? Shmuel had paskined that if a person is buying 10 non-contiguous pieces of property, as long as the cash amount is equivalent to those 10 properties and he makes a kinyan of chazaka on one of those properties, he acquires all of those properties. So why over here are we saying that you have to make a kinyan on each separate, even though they're adjacent to each other, you have to make a separate chazaka kinyan both on the sandlot and on the riverbed? So the Gemara answers, Hachi hashta hasam desatna da'ara chadu v'kula chada tashmishtahu. Aval hacha ha-tashmishta l'chod v'ha-tashmishta l'chod. So the Gemara answers, normally when you're acquiring real estate, making a kinyan on one parcel of land helps you to acquire multiple parcels of land because all land is considered connected at some point. All pieces of property are connected because they're all from the ground, right? So they may not even be contiguous with each other, but they're connected because everything is connected to the ground, right? So that's why making a kinyan on one helps you make a kinyan on all the things. Here it's different though, because since the utility of the two properties, the sandlot and the riverbed, are different, therefore Chazal require a separate and distinct kinyan for each property. When you're acquiring 10 fields, the utilities are the same. So therefore, make a chazak in one, it helps for all of them. Here the utilities are different, and therefore it doesn't. The ikada, that's one version of Rav Nachman. Others say that the version of Rav Nachman is just the opposite. That Amar Rava, Amar Rav Nachman, Hechazik b'chulsis kana metzula, hechzik b'metzula kana chulsis. So that it doesn't matter. You just have to make a chazaka on one, and you automatically acquire the other. Either make a kinyan on the sandlot to acquire the riverbed, or on the riverbed, and you'll acquire the sandlot as well. So to that, according to this version, the Gemara says Pshita, Daha Amar Shmuel, Machalo Eser Sados V'chulei. That why do you need to even say that? We already know from Shmuel that even non-contiguous properties just make a chazaka on one, and it helps to be kona all of them. So the Gemara answers, Mahu d'tei mahasam hu d'satan d'arachadu aval hacha hatashmish l'chud v'hatashmish l'chud kama hashmalan. The answer is because over there, not only are the properties attached, but they all have the same utility. But over here, the properties don't have the same utility, and therefore you might have thought that you need to make a separate kinyan for each one. Kamash Malan, according to this version, that you don't, and it's the same thing as acquiring 10 properties of Shmuel. Let's go on to the next mission. Hamocher Beis Habad, a person is selling a structure called a Beis Habad. This is an olive press, but it's not just the press itself. They've got a whole structure around the olive press, and you'd bring the olives in there. You had a lot of different kinds of apparatus that are needed for the olive press. So what is included in the olive press room? So if you sell that olive press room, mochar es hayam ve'es ha'mamal ve'es ha'besulos, aval lo mochar es ha'avirim ve'es ha'galgal ve'es ha'kora. So the Gemara will translate for us what all of these things are. But the basic rule is that anything that is a heavy apparatus that is attached to the ground is considered to be part of the sale. And anything that's smaller or lighter or removable is not considered part of the sale. And the Gemara will translate all of these different words. But when you say the Beis Habad and all of its contents are sold, then even the smaller movable items are included in the sale. Rabbi Eliezer Omer hamocher beis abad mocher es hakor. Here Rabbi Eliezer is more liberal on behalf of the buyer in contrast to what he said in the previous mission. Here he says no, even though the Chachamim hold that the korah, which is the large beam that is used to press down, then bear weight down upon the olives to crush them, is not included in the sale. I hold that it is automatically included in the sale without any stipulation, because when you buy a press, the thing that's pressing is the main part of the press, and therefore it automatically is included in the sale. So the Gemara now says, let's translate all of these terms. Yam is a talafcha. What is a talafcha? It's the large basin. It's the main structure. The first thing that you look at is this big tub, and that's the thing that, or the trough, the thing that you pour the olives into. What is the mamel? So Amar Rabbi Abba bar mamel mafrachta. Little pun here. In translating the word mamel of an olive press, Rabbi Abba said, you know what? Let me translate it, because my dear old dad's name is mamel, so I should know what a mamel is. So he says, you know what a mamel is? It's a mafrachta. It's an instrument that breaks apart the olives. That's literally what it means. The Rashbam says that they would take a long stone bar, drill it with holes, stick wooden logs into these holes, and so it would be like some kind of apparatus that you would roll it and it would crush everything in its path. So that's what they used at some point in the process of crushing the olives. So those are the things, and what is the third thing that we said is included in the sale? Besulos. What does that mean? So Rabbi Yochanan klunso shel erez shemamidin bohenes hakora. These are vertical poles that are made out of cedar wood that are basically attached to the large basin, and they are there to hold up the korah when it bears down its weight upon the olives. Now, if you got a picture, you can show your chavrusa what it looks like, but those are the basic descriptions. I don't know what a classic olive press looks like, but you get the basic gist of it. Now let's talk about the things that are not included in the sale. Avirim are kivoshe. So the Rashbam says that the word kivoshe are these boards that are small relative to the rest of the structure, and that are movable. And what you did was you placed these boards horizontally on top of the olives, and then you would bring the korah, which is the large beam that was attached to the basin, you'd bring that down to bear its weight down upon these boards, which would then distribute the weight among all of the olives, and that's what's not included in the sale because they're removable. What is the galgal that's not included in the sale? That's a chumrasa. That's some kind of dial or screw that is used to bring down the korah and to tighten it to, sort of like a crank that lowers down the korah gradually and crushes the olives. That's also not included in the sale. And a korah, of course, we know is a korah. A korah is a beam. That's that large piece of wood that bears down its weight upon the olives and crushes them. Tanu Rabbana. Hamocher beis habad mocher es nesarim ve'es hayakovim ve'es hamafrachos ve'es harechaim hatachtonos avolo ha'elyonos. Now, the Brisa now gives a slightly different, like a variation on this theme, that when you sell an olive press, you're selling the boards. Now here the Rashbam says that these boards are different from the boards of our Mishnah. These boards are set up not horizontally but vertically on the sides of the basin to sort of push the olives towards the center so that they are included in the crushing. The Yakavim, the Rashbam says that it is a sieve apparatus that is on the bottom of the basin, which causes the liquid to flow through it. That seems to be what it's like. And the lower mill, but not the upper mill. And apparently there's some kind of grinding appliance that is attached. So the lower part of it is included in the sale because it's permanent and affixed to the rest of the structure. But the upper millstone is not included because it's removable. Uvizman sha'omer lohu v'chol mashu v'socho harei kulan muchur. But the Brisa says if you said explicitly the olive press and all of its contents, then everything is included. Bein kach uvein kach lo machar lo es ha'avirim v'lo es hasakin v'lo es hamartzufin. But even if you stipulated all of its contents, the following three things are not included in the sale. So the avirim is one of them. So what is avirim? So the Rashbam explains that the word avirim, let me just see where that is. We had that before, the word avirim. And that's the boards, the horizontal boards that you put on top of the olives to press them, because they're very small. And the bags that are used to keep the olives. And the martzufim are also some kind of container to carry the olives. So these things, because they're so small and movable, they're really not included, because the seller would want to take those home with him to use for whatever else he's going to be using as he moves on. So Rabbi Eliezer Omer hamocher beis habad mocher es hakora shelo nikra beis habad ela al shum kora. And finally, Rabbi Eliezer just repeats his words here that he said in the Mishnah, that when you sell a beis habad, the kora, the large beam that pushes down, is automatically included in the sale, because after all, that's the main apparatus that crushes the olives, and that's what is assumed by the buyer to be included in the sale. Let's go on to the next Mishnah. Hamocher es beis hamerchatz, lo mocher es hanesarin, ve'es hasafolim, ve'es habalonios. The following three things are not included in the sale of a beis hamerchatz. The Rashbam, citing from the Gemara in Shabbos, tells us that there are three chambers in a beis hamerchatz. There's the outer chamber, the middle chamber, and the inner chamber. It's just like when you go into the garnet or you go into any gym. The outer chamber is where you walk in at first and you're fully clothed. The middle chamber is the locker room, where you get undressed and you put your clothes away. The innermost chamber is the Olympic-sized swimming pool, or in this case, the Beis HaMerchatz, where you go and you bathe. So those are the three chambers. So what's not included in the sale? So the Mishnah says the three things that are not included are, number one, the horizontal boards. These are, again, small, relatively boards. And why do you need boards in a Beis HaMerchatz? Because a Beis HaMerchatz was constructed as follows. You'd have a deep trench underground where they would put hot coals, and then they would fill up the Beis HaMerchatz with water. And you would put boards over the coals because the coals were very hot. They heated up the water. But if you allowed the customer to step on the coals, you'd have a lot of guys in the emergency room. So they would put boards on top of the coals, and that would be the floor of the Beis HaMerchatz. So the boards are not included because they're very small and removable. What are the safolim? Safolim are containers that you use to pour water into the merchatz. They're also relatively small, they're not included. And the balonios are translated either as towels or as curtains, dividing curtains for privacy. Bisman sha'amar lohi v'chol masha b'socha rekulan mechurim. But if you stated explicitly that I'm selling you all of the contents of the merchatz, those movable items are included. And bein kach uvein kach lo machar lo es hamaguros shel mayim v'lo es otzaro shel eitzim. But even when you stipulate all of the contents of the Beis HaMerchatz, what's not included in the sale are adjacent properties that are there to service the Beis HaMerchatz. The two things that we're talking about are if you have an adjacent pool of water that is used to pull out water from there and to fill the merchatz, that's not included in the sale. And if you have a shed of firewood that you use to make the coals for the Beis HaMerchatz, that's also not included in the sale. Now, why is that? So the Rashbam explains, because the seller could say, listen, it's true that this is a very convenient source of water or source of wood for the merchatz, but I also have other industrial interests where I can use water and wood. So that's not included. I have other interests that I have. I may need that water to feed my animals. I may need that water for my own drinking water. I may need the wood to heat up my house. So therefore, you can't assume that when I sold you the merchatz, I was selling you those adjacent properties that could be used for other purposes as well as the merchatz. So the Gemara now says, Tana Rabbanan, Hamocher es hamerchatz mocher es beis hanesorim ves beis hayakomim ves beis hasafolim ves beis havilaos avalo es hanesorim atzman velo es hayakomin atzman velo es hasafolim atzman velo es havilaos atzman. So the Brisa now says that when you sell a bathhouse, it's included that any shed or adjacent storage facility that contains the boards of the merchatz or the yakamim of the merchatz, which is a place where you keep the buckets of water, and the safolim are also different, also kind of container. Rashbam, some say that it's a place where you keep the benches or the stools, and some say that the word safolim, some say rather yakamim also means towels or kerchiefs that people put on their heads when they go into the Beis HaMerchatz. These are basically storage closets or storage facilities that are right next to the Beis HaMerchatz. But even though those structures are considered to be sold, but the contents of those structures, since they're very portable and small, are not included in the sale. So if you had a whole, let's say, a shed that's filled with towels or filled with buckets, the shed is considered part of the sale, but not the buckets or the towels. Okay? But if you said the Beis HaMerchatz in all of its contents, so then you include even the buckets and the towels. Now, bein kach uvein kach lo macher es habrechos hamesafkos lo mayim, bein biyamos hachama, bein biyamos hageshamim, velo kinos ha'etzim. In all cases, not included in the sale is the adjacent pool of water and the adjacent woodshed, like we mentioned a moment ago, because they have multiple functions. And the only thing that the Brisa adds is that's true regardless of whether you're selling the Beis HaMerchatz in the winter or in the summer. And the Rashbam points out is that I might have had a havamina, that if I sell a Beis HaMerchatz in the summer where the pool is very low in water content, maybe I would think that it's for sure included in the sale because it's so insignificant that it's completely tafel to the Beis HaMerchatz. Kamash malan that not. But here the Brisa adds one more thing that our Mishnah did not say. And that is, let's say you use an added verbiage, which is not b'chol asher bo, everything, all its contents, but you say anything that services the Beis HaMerchatz, b'chol tashmishav, anything that services the Beis HaMerchatz, then that's considered to be including not only the contents of the Beis HaMerchatz, but also the adjacent woodshed and the water pool. And the reason is because the word v'chol tashmishav says that even though this pool of water and this woodshed could potentially service other things as well that I need, but the fact that you said tashmishav means that the fact that it services the Beis HaMerchatz means that I explicitly want it to be included in the sale. Okay. Hahu da'amr le'lechavre beis habad v'chol tashmishav ani mocher lach. Now let's talk about a case. This is now going back to the case of an olive press, but it's brought here because a guy stipulated in the sale that I'm selling you the olive press and all things that service the olive press. So based on that, so Havyan hanahu chanu asa avroi da'abushatchu behu shumshim. So there were adjacent to this olive press, there were other structures that were used for retail purposes. They were used to sell items to people, but also they were also used for the purpose of spreading out sesame seeds to dry, because the sesame seeds need to be dried out before you can press them and harvest sesame oil, which is what this press was for. It wasn't just an olive press, it was an oil press for any kind of oil. So the argument that the buyer wanted to make was that because these structures service the press, they should be included in the sale. So Asa Lakami de Rav Yosef, Amarle Tanina, Imamar Beis HaMerchatz v'chol tashmishav ani mocher lach, harei kulan mechurin. And that's taka what Rav Yosef paskin. He said, based on what we just learned about a Beis HaMerchatz, that if you say v'chol tashmishav, then anything that services the Beis HaMerchatz, even though it has other functions, is included in the sale. So too, even though these structures are also used to sell other items to different customers, but since they also service the oil press, they are included in the sale. So Amar le Abaye v'hatani Rabbi Chia ein kulan mechurin. So Abaye challenged Rav Yosef and said, there's another brisa that says that even if you say v'chol tashmishav, they're not included in the sale. So how do you reconcile the two brisas? So Ela Amar Ravashi Chazinani Amar le Beis Habad v'chol tashmishav v'ilein matzarna kani v'ilo lo kani. And the final reconciliation that's offered by Ravashi is as follows. If you just say B'chol Tashmishav, that's not enough. You have to say, V'chol tashmisha v'ilein matzarna. I sell you all of the other facilities that service the thing that I'm selling you, the structure that I'm selling you, either the merchatz or the beis abad, the bathhouse or the press, and here are the delineated boundaries of the property that I'm selling you. And you delineate the outer markings, the outer borders of the property. So then you take a look. If the stores or the pool or the woodshed is within those borders that are delineated in the sale, then they are included in the sale. But if not, then it's not included in the sale. You know, back on Daf Samach Aleph, we had a discussion that what if a person says, I'm selling you the atrium X, and atrium X is adjacent to many other rooms in a much larger structure. And then the seller delineated the borders of the property that's being sold, and those borders extended well beyond the one atrium that he delineated. We said over there that the delineation of the borders is not the definition of the sale, but rather because he said this one atrium, only that's included in the sale. Now over here, however, since you said v'chol tashmishav, anything that services the beis abad or the merchatz, plus you delineated the borders, you've basically clarified any ambiguity and said that anything that's within these borders that possibly could service this beis abad or this merchatz is included in the sale, and therefore we take it seriously.
Does that include all those metaltalin that we were mentioning before that were so small?
Does it include? It depends whether it's a beis abad or a merchatz. Each one, as you noticed, had different criteria. It depends on the type of item that's included. If it's towels for a beis merchatz, it's not included. If it's certain things, certain boards for a beis abad, it's not included. Everything is unique and has to be defined.
But then it adds the language of kol tashmishav.
Kol tashmishav is that so it sounds like that only is there to include structures that service, but not the actual metaltalin themselves. That's what it seems like. But I think that's the maskana of the Gemara. Have a wonderful day. Kaddish anyone? Okay.